Chapter 32. Galimar Air Force Base, 10 kilometers southwest of Alamogordo, New Mexico. Center for Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, ISAR. Modern day. Over the last several years, the need for drones and their valuable intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance in the war theater has increased exponentially. And with the rise of new terrorist organizations seemingly in every alleyway and dark canyon, the former culture leading to only the most elite of officers having the privilege of operating attack drones is over. More and more, the piloting skills of the enlisted rank and file are being utilized. With the recent conflicts in the Middle East and other places on the planet, the need for strike abilities that can minimize danger to friendly forces, but also the even greater need for accurate reconnaissance has never been more evident. The detractors to the technology point to the fact that there is certainly collateral damage when strikes are made, and they like to point to the grandmothers and children that have lost their lives. They like to vilify the armed forces for the civilian deaths that have resulted from the successful bombing runs carried out by the most elite of drone operators. At the same time, though, proponents of the drone technology point out that while there are terribly regrettable civilian deaths that have occurred, the overwhelming benefit to the efforts to eradicate terrorists cannot be understated. They point out that it is hard to quantify the thousands of lives that have been saved by the fact that the terrorists they kill are no longer a threat, and that the number of peacetime efforts that have moved forward is innumerable. They typically point out that if bin Laden and the 19 terrorist hijackers that flew jets into the World Trade Center had been taken out with a drone, public sentiment would probably name them as murderers, whereas their efforts would have saved the lives of 2,997 civilians that died when the buildings came down. One thing for sure, though, is that the whole subject is a political hot potato that most politicians prefer to avoid. Most of them feel that the investment of resources and the risk of civilian casualties are far outweighed by the sheer tactical advantage proffered by these silent and deadly killers of the air. Galimar Air Force Base near Alamogordo, New Mexico, is smack dab in the middle of Sunshine Country. To some people in the country, it holds the best brand of heat since, as they say, yes, but it's a dry heat. Situated in a less than remarkable portion of the base, there is a set of structures that appear to simply be cargo containers that might have just arrived from an overseas shipping container. Upon closer inspection, though, you might start to notice that the corners of the containers have small retractable wheels attached to the structure, such that if they were extended, one would be able to tow around the metal box rather easily. After even more examination, you would also see that there are actually quite a lot of antennae extending from the roofs of these boxes. Air conditioners can be heard on one side of each of them, and once you get close enough, you would be able to see that while some of them have side doors allowing personnel to enter and exit, other similar containers are actually electrical generators. With cables running from the generators to the other containers, you can now see that whatever takes place in these containers, these operations are the ultimate in mobility. These containers, though, are much more than a metal box with TVs and refrigerators coming from Asia. These are the mobile command and control centers used by the armed forces to control the Global Hawk, Predator, and other highly sophisticated drone aircraft. Drone-based aircraft is actually relatively new in its development. As late as 1982, the Israeli army successfully came up with an ingenious solution to a conundrum that had been plaguing them for quite some time. At that time, the Bekaa Valley of southern Lebanon was a complete death trap. Sophisticated Russian equipment such as the SA-6 anti-aircraft missiles and the radar technology to operate them was employed by Syrian enemies to Israel. The idea of approaching the valley by either air or ground assault by Israeli troops was quite literally a suicide mission. Something had to be done to minimize losses in the region. Israel's answer to this problem was the first truly useful unmanned aerial vehicle, or UAV, that actually had no firepower whatsoever. It was controlled from the ground with radio signals, a concept that was not really that new. It had been used by model airplane hobbyists for years, but had never been used effectively in the theater of war before. And like other conventional model airplanes, it was slow and had limited range. What it did have, however, were signal generators that enabled it to project a radar signature of a much larger plane. On June 9, 1982, the Israeli army directed a wave of these UAVs straight toward the Syrian missile sites in the Bekaa Valley. When the UAVs flew over while generating the signals of much larger planes, the Russian-built Syrian radar systems activated so as to lock onto the targets of what they perceived to be a large squadron of fighter airplanes and bombers coming in for an attack. What the Syrians didn't know, though, is that these UAVs were not the real threat, and while they were busy locking target on the ghost bombers, behind these drones were fighters rigged with their own anti-radiation systems. These fighters destroyed not only the missile ranging technology, but to a great degree the anti-aircraft missiles themselves. As a result, the Israeli forces now had free rein over the Bekaa Valley, and they were now able to shoot down almost any Syrian aircraft. From that time forward, the Pentagon saw that not only was the usage of UAVs necessary for effective warfare, but they also saw that the United States was woefully behind in where the military brass wanted to be with this technology. This opened the way to a wave of research and development that led to the modern drone that not only has the ability to fly without a pilot being on board, but can utilize the satellite global positioning system as well as two-way satellite communications. This allowed a remote operator to directly control the aircraft and to observe real-time reconnaissance data. In time, these drones began to carry military payloads, none the least of which can be the 100-pound AGM-114 Hellfire missile. With only a 20-pound warhead, it is considered a tactical weapon. However, because it utilizes smart bomb technology, it has proven highly effective in neutralizing enemy threats. On this particular day, though, Black Ops ground forces have reported that a terrorist target of high interest has been spotted in the town of Nangarhar, Afghanistan. This information had come through intelligence channels and was then relayed to Air Force personnel operating drones that had been on a training mission flying in formation over Afghanistan. The drone pilots were operated by personnel at Holloman Air Force Base, 12,300 miles away. The light in the Command and Control Operations Center was kept low. All focus was on the video feeds coming from the drone signals relayed via satellite. Sentinel. Possible new target approaching. Target 1 building. Designate new target, target 5. Pilot. Pilot copies. Sensor. Sensor copies. Sentinel. White pickup arriving in front of target building. Pilot. Pilot copies. Sentinel. 2 passengers, including target 5, have entered the building. Confirm target in building. Sensor. Copy. Sensor confirms. Sentinel. If possible, keep eyes on building and pickup. Building has the priority. Pilot. MC, pilot. I need tail 107 to come off its current target. Get permission for 107 to come south. MC. MC, copy. Pilot. Sensor. Relieve sensor lock till we have permission to come off that target. Sensor. Roger Wilco. MC. Pilot, MC. Tail 107 cleared off target. Pilot. Sensor, you can break lock on the bridge and lock up the target 5 with tail 107. Sensor. Roger. Pilot. We got 60 degrees north heading. Sensor. Copy. Sentinel.
Pilot, request weapons loadout.
Pilot. Sentinel, pilot. I've got 8 missiles and 2 bombs on 2 predators in the target vicinity. Sentinel.
Target 5 leaving building, entering pickup. Pickup now has priority.
Pilot. Pilot copies. Sensor. Sensor copies. Sentinel.
Pilot, Sentinel. You are cleared hot for white pickup.
Pilot. Sensor, let's spin up weapons on tail 107. Sensor. Copy. Pilot. Pre-launch checklist. Sensor. PRF code. Pilot. Entered. Sensor. AEA power. Pilot. On. Sensor. AEA bit. Pilot. In progress. Passed. Sensor. Weapons power. Pilot. On. Sensor. Weapon bit. Pilot. Passed. Sensor. Code weapons. Pilot. Coded. Sensor. Weapon status. Pilot. Weapons ready. Sensor. Pre-launch checklist complete. Sentinel.
Pilot, Sentinel. You are clear to engage white pickup truck at your discretion.
Pilot. Acknowledged. Pilot clear to engage white pickup truck. Pilot. Looks like it's on the move. Launch checklist. MTS autocorrect. Sensor. Established. Pilot. Laser. Sensor. Laser selected. Pilot. Go ahead and arm your laser. Sensor. Laser is armed. Pilot. Master arm is hot. Go ahead and fire the laser. Sensor. Lasing. Pilot. We're within range. 3, 2, 1. Rifle. 3, 2, 1. Impact. Excellent job. Hey, fellow Galimarians. This is Dan Adrian, and I just wanted to say thank you for listening to my book. If you can, please click like down below because it really helps me bring these videos to you and lets me know what you like. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll get notified when I release more chapters. If you have any questions about this or any other of my books, or if you want to know more about what it takes to write a novel like this one, please make sure you leave your question in the comments below. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.